All right, welcome back, everybody, for a new episode of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the video and article that I do for comicbookinvest.com, where I talk about those books that are still probably tucked away in those cheap boxes that you could find based off of some of the recent news, rumors, announcements, things going on in the movies, TV, and in the comics, and things that just kind of spark my interest that I find fun for you to go look in kind of a scavenger hunt kind of style, like a list of books. Some you might make a few bucks on, but a lot of times this is just stuff for fun. Comics should be fun after all. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel as we are on our way to 3K. And I realize you guys are getting this late on Thursday, but it's almost 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. Trying to record this real fast before I got to get to bed and get to work. Summer schedule. You know, what are you going to do? I mean, flag football practice, threw my whole day off. So what are you going to do? Like I said, but I still got the list out for you. And if you want to see it, you still can watch it. And if you're not seeing this on Thursday, then catch it on the replay whenever you do. And like I said, drop me a line, tell me what you think. And with that all said, if you want to see what books I got for you, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. Okay, so first up, let's hit up a news story I found over on CBR where they were talking about, oh, it's a spoiler. It's a spoiler of who was it Mrs. Righteous, or Madam, I can't remember the name of the character. This newer character that's kind of appeared. I've covered this character in Dollar Bin Digging already, because she's come out somewhat recently, but it's revealed who she actually is. And she's a clone of a major villain's wife. With that kind of hint, I'm pretty sure you could guess who's Mr. Clone? Well, it's Nathaniel Essex and his wife, Rebecca Essex. So, big reveal that Righteous is Rebecca Essex. All right, that's kind of cool. Her first is one you can easily find. You could find this one in those dollar bins. This is the Further Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix. It's not the first series. This is the second mini series where we're talking about, Cyclops and Phoenix. So you got apocalypse type stuff going on here. Birth of a Dark Covenant. Yeah, pretty cool little fun little read. But inside this series, in this issue 1, this is where we're introduced to, Nathan, Nathaniel, whatever he decides to go by, Mr. Sinister's wife, Rebecca. So there she is. She's also, in the story more than that. But that's what we're talking about here. Copies of this, again, I told you, it's not an expensive book. Copies have sold as recently, not even individuals. These are all this entire miniseries, and they're selling for $6, $15, $10 for all 4 issues. So you can do that math of what that's out per issue. It's not an expensive book. Easy one you can find. Like I said, kind of for fun. You want to grab her first? There she is. $3, $4. The whole set listed for like $22, $23. You can find cheaper ones too. I'm telling you, go dig in those boxes. You can probably build out a set, flipping through those dollar boxes and get it for $4. If you're lucky. It might take some time, but hey, that's part of the fun, part of the patience, completing sets, etc. for cheap. Go dig them out. You find a 1, a 3, and a 4. You go look for 2 somewhere else. That kind of thing. With that said, let's get to our next story. This story was not actually that great. Story meaning in this comic book. We covered this on the Tax Show this week. DC brings back a surprising superhero alter ego, whatever. Which is kind of interesting because when I was reading the story, that's the one thing I did find interesting, that they were bringing this character back. And this issue of Catwoman Night Terrors, it was just kind of weird, uneven. I didn't know what was going on. I felt a little lost at times, but it is what it is. But in this story, basically brought back Sister Zero. So, Selena's sister, Magdalena, is brought back, and she is, a somewhat superhero of sorts. So that's who they brought back here. Maggie Kyle, who introduced a long time ago. You can find her first appearance way back in this Catwoman #1. This is like volume 1 of Catwoman. This is like the 1989, Batman Returns kind of time frame Catwoman. So this one, way back in the day, issue 1 of 4, is where you're going to get, a little backstory on Selena Kyle, and you get introduced to Maggie Kyle here. And she is a nun even there. A little messed up, but there she is. This book, again, not expensive. You're not gonna get rich if you find it, but copies have sold for as cheap as $1, as high as like $14 individually, and then you can see sets for the whole mini for like $28. Asking prices as cheap as $2. some $15 asks. Again, sets in that kind of $20 range. That's by and large what you're looking at with this book. If you want, her first, Sister Maggie's first. Not to be confused with Daredevil's mom, who was also called Sister Maggie, I believe. Weird. Martha! Anyway, if you want her alter ego, like the new fangled vigilante style alter ego that she eventually becomes, that is actually in Gotham City Sirens number 12. This whole run can be kind of tough to find in those cheap boxes these days. Keep an eye out for them anyway. I'd get any of them if you find them cheap enough, because it's like 27 issues. There's a few covers that sell pretty well. We can get into that another time if you can find them, but these are getting tougher and tougher to find in the dollar boxes, the cheap boxes, $2 discount boxes, etc. But issue 12 would be that first appearance of her new alter ego of, what does she go by? It's like I said, it's like Sister Zero or something like that. For whatever reason, I'm drawing a blank. It's getting late. I'm getting a little fuzzy. I did this deck up earlier in the day, meant to record this earlier, but just didn't have time. But this is where she kind of becomes like a little bit of a more of an avenging, heroish type of character. So if you want that, the Gotham City Sirens book is the one you're looking for. And like I said, it sells for a little bit, $12. Not a ton, but a couple dollars. Asking prices, 10, 15 for a pair of books, another $10 one. So there you go. Again, not going to get rich if you find it, but it's a worthy little find if you can get it for cheap enough. Another story getting teased. I mentioned this book on the watch list, which was the Darkwing Duck this week, because we had a return of Gizmo Duck on the cover. That one seemed to sell out everywhere. I'm not sure if I'm getting one. I'm looking for one. Can't remember if I found it or not. I'll find it. I'll track it down. That says, with that issue, apparently, inside, they're teasing the return of the Justice Ducks. These guys appeared as a team in the cartoon, really haven't done much as far as comic appearance goes, but the Justice Ducks are being teased, as I said, in this issue that I was mentioning. This cover had sold out in a lot of places, this Darkwing Duck, because it's awesome. It's an awesome Gizmo Duck. If you're into that kind of thing, this is a really cool cover. And inside, like I said, they are teasing the return of the origin of the Justice Ducks. So we'll see. We'll see where we get more of it. I mentioned this really was only like a couple of cartoon episodes of Darkwing Duck. I forget the episode numbers, but it was like a two-parter or something. And those were adapted into sort of a comic back in the day, the Cartoon Tales. This is like issue 7. These things are really tough to find, but it's basically an adaptation of some of the cartoons. And with that, we got the Justice Ducks inside there. You can see them as a team. Justice Ducks, part 1. So they, adapt a 2-part story in this comic. No copies of this have sold that I could find. I was looking, but I couldn't find any. Because again, this is a weird thing. A weird thing. Go hunt it out. Maybe you get lucky, you find it. You don't, go dig in those kids' boxes. This is the kind of weird stuff you might go and pull and be like, what the hell is this? Well, this is what you'll find. Copies available. Asking $20. Then there's a set of 4 issues of these cartoon tales, asking only about $20. But yeah, still could be a worthwhile find if you can find it. And you get the first Justice Ducks inside. Boom. This is listed as an appearance. If you go on like some place like Comic Vine, I think had this listed as an appearance of the Justice Ducks. I don't know if I would go so far as to say that, because basically all of the DuckTales Darkwing characters on this cover, they're not really as a group. You could spot all the individuals on here. They're all there, but it's not really a team appearance. I wouldn't say so. But this book does all right anyway, so it's just a good book to know. So DuckTales number 5, cover A for the 2011 Kaboom series. As you can see here, this thing could sell for a decent amount on its own, like $10 if you can find one. So sometimes, like I said, you find the kids' books, you find yourselves little gems. Asking price on this thing, yeah, it's one listed for 20. So yeah, not too bad if you can find it. Speaking of not too bad if you can find it, I mentioned Gizmo Duck because I am a fan, and a Gizmo Duck cover that is really cool. I think this is the final issue of the series of Darkwing Duck, this run, this 2011 run, issue 18. But this Gizmo Duck cover does all right if you can find it. There's some crazy asking prices. I didn't show you the crazy ones, but here's one that sold best offer on $30 for this thing. Some of the asking prices are like 40 to like 60. There's even higher than that, but like I said, I didn't get into that. There was some really crazy pricing. It was $80, $100 for this thing. But by and large, 40 to like 60 though is still a decent amount for this cover. So keep an eye out. Keep an eye out. You never know. You just never know what you might find. So that's why I'm letting you know. Plus, it's a cool Gizmo Duck cover. That said, let's get to our next story. Got a couple more left for you. It might be a shorter show because again, it's getting late. I gotta turn in. I gotta get ready for work tomorrow. That said, Venture Brothers. They're wrapping up the Venture Brothers. After all these years, we're finally going to get an end to the Venture Brothers. And I believe it's going to be like a movie. I think that's what they're doing. And they're apparently not going to be at San Diego this year. Oh, I mean, a lot of things are not going to be at San Diego because of the strikes. But I use that story to kind of piggyback the idea that, hey, we are getting a Venture Brothers movie, though, regardless of them not being at San Diego. Let's not forget that. And if you want to find a little fun thing, here's a fun thing. In the vein of the Willy Wonka appearance of last week, when I talked about Willy Wonka, I think Topher had it too. The Willy Wonka in Simpsons 85. Yes, it's a weird little appearance. Does it count? Well, it's up to you to decide. But if you are interested and you want to find what could be considered the first appearance of Dr. Rusty Venture and Brock Sampson in a comic book, look no further than Invincible number 58. Yes, old Invincible comic. This is like years ago. But Invincible 58, pretty cool cover too, him with Adam Eve. But inside, right at the beginning of this story, right by this little hot dog stand, sitting at that table, clear as day, that's Brock Sampson and Rusty. So Dr. Venture and Brock Sampson munching down on some hot dogs at Beefy Frank's. I know it's not really a real in-canon type appearance, but take it for what it is. You like fun little weird collectible things. This is the kind of fun little weird collectible things I like to tell you guys about, so you can go look for it. So this book, as you might expect, it's an Invincible old issue, so it's not going to be super cheap, but it's also not expensive. So don't go thinking it's like, oh, you're telling me to go find a $20 Invincible book for $1. No, I'm telling you, you might go find like a look. That's a lot of how many issues? Like 3 or 4 issues for $15. That's not a lot. It's still cheap. That's basically cover price. And yeah, $63, but that's for a 9.8. A 9.8 is only $63. How many of those are out there? But that's all I could find that sold. That's why I had to show you those, because that's all I could find that sold. Because this thing's not selling, because nobody's looking for this. It's just weird little things I'm telling you to go dig out of a box. But look, copies $6, $8, $10. It's not going to break your wallet if you wanted to go and pay for it. But I'm just telling you for fun. Go look in the cheap boxes. Maybe find this cover price or less. It could be worth a grab because it's got Brock and Rusty in there. Just saying. One more story for you, I think. So only one more, but I got a few characters to talk about with this one. We also talked about this in the News on the Tack show yesterday, and I mentioned that I would have something on this for Dollar Bin Digging today, and here it is. So Steve Fox is taking the X-Men on a horrific new adventure. We're getting a new Dark X-Men series and a lot of familiar faces. You got Archangel, who's kind of cut off there. You got Havoc, Gambit, and then some other characters. You're like, oh, wait a second. I don't know if I've really seen them tied with the X-Men per se, with Azazel, and we got Empath. Let's get into those characters. There's the weird members of this squad. So oddball characters. Maybe they get a bigger profile following this series. I don't know. We'll see. But if you want there first, I got them for you. And you can probably dig them out of boxes. First up, right in front there, Azazel. Bright red. This is probably going to be the most expensive one. For one reason or another. Maybe this is leftover first class spec. I don't know. Because he was in that movie. But Azazel's first appearance was in this Uncanny X-Men 428. The Draco prologue. All right. I mean, it's interesting Nightcrawler cover. But inside this book, we get introduced to Azazel there. Kind of comes off as like a demon, crossroads demon of sorts, something like that. But, you get it. He's got the same powers as Nightcrawler because, well, he's dead. Anyway. What does this thing sell for? $13? $20? Well, also as cheap as $6. So pricing can be very inconsistent. I know it's also based on the grade, but all in all, depending how they're listed, some people are listing it as first appearance of Azazel. They ask a bit more. Other people just list it as, hey, it's the first series of X-Men, issue 428. Fill your run for $6. So who knows how you're going to find this thing. It could just be in a shop, just again, for just a couple of bucks because it's run filler material. Nobody's really specking on the first appearance of Azazel. But some people are, I guess. Other copies available, $5, $8, up to that $14. And some of them, like I said, they list the first appearance of Azazel. But I'm not telling you this should be worth a ton. I'm telling you this is a fun book to go and dig out based off of this new team that we're getting. And you take a flyer. You find it for $1 or $2. Take a flyer, see what happens. Maybe you make yourself a couple of bucks if this thing heats up. Just saying. And if you don't care, it's just the first appearance that I'm telling you about. So you don't have to go buy anything. I just like talking about comics. With that, Empath was another character I mentioned because he was right there on that cover. This was the big bad of that first Generation X series. I don't know if you remember. M-Plate. Why I keep saying Empath? M-Plate. Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah, you get confused. You know how many mutants are out there? So M-Plate. First appearance, as I said, shiny, holochrome foil goodness, chromium cover, I believe it is. Generation X #1. You could find this out there, and like I said, M-Plate is the bad guy. So you get there. It shows up a little bit more in the book than this, but here's the first appearance in the book. Book sells okay. It's still Generation X #1. It's a shiny, 90s gimmick cover. $10, best offer on $15. Some copies have sold for. Asking prices could be as cheap as $5, $3, but there's still some $15 asks. I don't know. You see, some people are getting like $10 for it. So yeah, but at the same time, you can also still find these in those dollar bins because they made a lot. They made a lot. This was not a hard to find book. This was a big deal for them at the time. They really built up that Generation X team following the whole Phalanx Covenant series and whatnot, introducing all the characters, etc. We can get back into that another day. But those are two characters I find that are interesting as part of this team, as well as two more announced that were not in that image, in that outline. But apparently these other two characters are going to be involved in the squad as well. So some more first appearances for you. They need a Wolverine, right? Nope, it's not X-23. It's not Sabretooth. It's not Dakin, whatever you call his name. Nope. They decided to roll with Albert. Do you remember this guy? The cyborg robot version of Wolverine and the little girl, what was her name? Ellie or something like that? LED? I don't know if she's good. I don't think wasn't mentioned, but Albert, the robot cyborg Wolverine, whatever you want to call him, he was mentioned. He first appeared, if we can call him a he, because he is technically artificial intelligence. Don't want to open that can of worms, but 37. Wolverine number 37, fighting Lady Deathstrike. This is where we get introduced to this character. I mean, they got Donald Pierce there talking about how they created him, blah, 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 blah. He's not a cyborg. He's a synthetic, blah, 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 blah. I'm simplifying it. He's a robot Wolverine. Robot Wolverine. This is a book that already does okay, but you can still find it. $7, $4 if you consider that okay. That's what it sells for. So, this Wolverine run. You find them when you're digging through those boxes. There's still plenty of them out there. Everybody's digging, looking for that first test tube X-23. What is it, 80? Everybody looks for that one, and there's a couple others that you go flip through and try to find, and we can get into the 88 with Deadpool appearance, etc. But a lot of these earlier type issues in that first 50, they're there. They're plentiful. So you could find these out there for cheap. Even online, they're cheap. $2, $5, $6. But it's still a first appearance. And the first appearance, I think, is kind of interesting. Lastly, another cheap book that you can go pull out of the boxes that's a first appearance is this character that's also supposed to be part of this squad, Zero. I remember reading this book when he first appeared, and he was the villain at first of the Generation Hope series, but then he became a member of the team pretty quickly. But Zero was the big bad of that first issue of Generation Hope, or at least maybe not the big bad, but he was the recruit they were going in. Some bad stuff was going down. I mean, it does look like some Japanese body horror type deal going on there, because that's kind of his thing, but it's creepy, and he can fit this Dark X-Men team, I think, pretty well. But Generation Hope #1, again, made plenty of these out there. This was another push at the time for the X-Men, so another new squad, new team push, just like Gen X had it, just like New Mutants had it, etc. We always get a new squad of mutants, and they always get a heavy push when they come out. And Generation Hope was no exception. Multiple covers on this thing, too, but just look for the regular. Like I said, Zero, big bad. I can't remember what his name is, non-code name is, but still pretty cool. It's a fun little read, too, if you actually want to open it up and read it. But this thing sells for like nothing. I mean, look, the entire Generation Hope 17 series sold for a best offer on $25. So that's less than $2 an issue, most likely about $1 an issue when it was all said and done. And that's all 17 issues of the run. This is just the first issue. And in asking prices for this thing, 99 cents, $2, $3.85. There was one up for auction that no bids, but this is what I'm talking about. This is a very cheap book, and it's easy to find, and it's a first appearance. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, you like finding cheap books like that, grab it, stash it away, give you something fun to look for while you're digging for those, those real treasures in those dollar boxes. This is a selection of stuff that you might be able to say, you know what? I'm just going to put this on my pile for fun, because comics should be fun after all. And with that, that's all I got for you this week. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you're enjoying everything else here on the channel. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate all the support, and I'll have more content coming your way, as well as content from all the other fellas here on the channel. So make sure you watch all the live shows this weekend. And with that said, I'll see you all soon. All right.